Yes, you read that right. Cruising will be back soon, and you can be one of the first on board for free. Royal Caribbean and other cruise lines are now offering free mock cruises to thousands of volunteers starting in January 2021. Just today, Royal Caribbean announced its Volunteers of the Seas program, where cruisers like you can be the first people cruising in the Caribbean. You would participate in a mock cruise, probably leaving from a port in Florida to Royal Caribbean private island destinations such as its recently renewed Coco Cay, Bahamas and Labadee, Haiti. Now you might be wondering, why are they offering free cruises? Well, that's because the CDC requires cruise lines to conduct successful mock cruises with volunteer cruisers before they can resume regular operations again in the future. These cruises should simulate a real cruising experience and see how crew members and passengers interact on board to enhance safety measures and reduce potential spreads of the virus. Volunteers, which need to be at least 18 years old, will be required to sign a statement noting that they, quote, are participating in a simulation of unproven and untested health and safety protocols, and that sailing during a pandemic is an inherently risky activity. Additionally, they must confirm that they do not have any pre-existing medical conditions that could make them more susceptible to COVID-19. Senior passengers will be required to have a physician certify their overall health and well-being. Apart from these two conditions, the sign-up process is relatively straightforward. Prospective volunteers simply need to fill out a form with a name, email address, phone number, and country of residence, and if selected, they will be contacted by the cruise line directly. But don't get your hopes up too soon. Royal Caribbean has stated that they have already received tens of thousands of volunteer sign-ups from cruisers throughout the United States and across the globe, and they're expecting tens of thousands more in the coming week. Additionally, do not expect any compensation from volunteering. Apart from the free cruise, Royal Caribbean cannot offer any compensation or promise of future employment. That is one of the guidelines set by the CDC for volunteer cruises. Now you might be wondering, how will these mock cruises actually look like, and how will they feel for me? Royal Caribbean has worked for months to come up with a plan of how to ensure safe cruising in the midst of a pandemic. This includes mandatory testing before and after the cruise, face masks where social distancing is not possible, improved air filtration systems on board, and much more. If you haven't yet, consider watching our video on how cruises will change once they resume and how life on board will look like. We linked the video in the description below if you want to check it out. Volunteer passengers will be asked to treat this like any other cruise and will have regular entertainment such as Broadway shows, dance nights, and other onboard activities. These will be conducted with the CDC guidelines for social distancing and other safety measures. Safety inspectors on board will closely monitor these events to look for potential areas of improvement in safety protocols. They will specifically be looking at capacity restrictions in entertainment venues and dining halls and how passengers interact and move throughout the ship. The ship will also stop in Royal Caribbean's private resorts of Labadee, Haiti and Coco Cay, Bahamas. While volunteers either relax on the beach or go on a shore excursion, Royal Caribbean will be looking at how to reduce possible interactions between local employees and passengers to ensure that the virus is not brought back on board. Upon disembarkation, passengers will be tested again to see if safety measures succeeded in reducing the spread of the virus. Passengers will also be asked for their feedback by both the company and CDC officials to improve passenger satisfaction and safety on board once regular cruises resume. Now you might be wondering, should I go? Well, there's some clear benefits, but also inherent risks with mock cruises. On the one hand, it's a free cruise, and you'll be helping the cruising industry speed up its recovery and its safe resumption of operations. On the other hand, there are inherent risks with traveling in general during a pandemic. Especially elderly and people with underlying health conditions should refrain from going on mock cruises. Others should anticipate this cruise being more restrictive than their previous cruises before the pandemic. Social distancing protocols and safety measures might complicate life on board for some. And that brings us to the last point. What if something goes wrong? In case of infections on board, crew members will isolate these individuals in specifically designated isolation rooms. Medical staff on board will treat these passengers until the cruise ends, where they will either go home and isolate or be sent to government quarantine locations. If infections spread rapidly, it is possible that all passengers will need to quarantine for 2 weeks, or until they've had 2 negative COVID tests in a row. Royal Caribbean is doing everything possible to avoid that second scenario, and it is confident that with its safety protocols in place, that will not happen. Other cruise lines throughout the world, including MSC and Costa in Europe, have proven that a safe resumption of cruising is possible with the right policies, and Royal Caribbean is confident it can too. If these mock cruises end up being successful, we could see cruising return to American ports as early as January or February 2021. Until then, will you be signing up for free mock cruises? Leave a comment down below and let us know why or why not. If you haven't yet, take a look at our previous video on how cruising will look like next year, including all major companies' plans for resumption and changes to life on board for you. Cruising is coming back, but it will be different. With select cruise ships restarting in some parts of the world, we're getting a glimpse at how cruising will look like after COVID-19. Today, we will be looking at newly released plans and proposed changes in operation from major cruise lines, including Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian, and others. Some of them will surprise you. Let's get into it. In number 1, and probably the most expected change given the current circumstances. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, keep cruising.